Hello, scholars, and welcome to another fun day of science. We have a really exciting experiment for the day, but before we get started, let's first go ahead and review the changes of matter and remind ourselves what a physical change is and what a chemical change is. So remember, in a physical change, matter changes form, but not chemical identity. So melting ice, chopping wood, slicing bread, all of these are examples of physical changes where the material changes the way that it looks, but it's still the same material. In a chemical change, a chemical reaction occurs and new products occur. So when we're burning wood or we see a rotting banana or fireworks, this is where the material not only changes shape, but it also changes what it is. So remember, a chemical change cannot be undone. Once that change is made, that material will no longer look or be what it was before. So in today's experiment, we are going to be taking a look at Mentos and Diet Coke. So these are the materials you're going to need for the day. You're going to need a stick of Mentos, where you can find at a store. Make sure that it is not the Mentos gum. You want the regular Mentos mint or candy. You're also going to need a 2-liter bottle of Diet Coke. And then you're going to need a little funnel or like a test tube. Now, I made mine out of like cardboard from the mail that I got. So I just took like a letter from the mail that was a little bit more sturdy, and I taped it together so I have like a little funnel or tunnel here, because we're actually going to be sticking the Mentos inside because we want them to come out all at once for our experiment for the day. So make sure you have those materials with you. And then our worksheet, as you could see here, we have our Mentos and Diet Coke experiment, and we want to think about what will happen when you drop the Mentos candy into Diet Coke. And we're going to think about if a chemical change is going to happen or if a physical change is going to happen. We're going to write a prediction on the lines here and draw a picture as well. Now, before you do your prediction, go ahead and take a quick look at the Mentos on its own. Take a look at what it looks like. Now, all the Mentos look exactly the same. And then take a look at the Diet Coke, because we want to observe the properties. Remember to use those properties that we learned for liquids and for solids. Take a look at what it looks like before. Now, using what your materials look like before, go ahead and write down on the lines here, what do you think will happen when we drop these little Mentos into the Coke bottle? Write it in words here, and then draw a picture here of your prediction. Make sure that you are also predicting whether a physical change will happen or whether a chemical change will happen. And then we will go outside and do our experiment. You are going to need to be outside for this experiment because it is going to get a little bit messy. So make sure that you are pausing the video, writing your prediction and drawing it. And then in a minute, we'll go ahead and head outside and we'll conduct our experiment. And then we'll come back inside and talk about what happened with this experiment. So let me get our stuff ready. All right, so as you can see, I'm outside now. And again, you're going to need a pretty big space because you are going to do this experiment and it is going to get a little bit messy. I'm going to go ahead and put up our paper here for you to take a look at. In case you don't have a printer, then you can just copy the circles and write down your prediction and your observations. So now that you're outside, I also forgot to mention you're going to need another little piece of cardboard here, because you're going to have to put this underneath the Mentos when we pull it out so they can drop into the bottle. Now, this is my first time doing it as well, so if it doesn't go well, I do have another bottle of Coke that we can try out. Now, when you're ready, you want to get your little piece of cardboard and your little tunnel that you made, and you're going to put it on top of the cardboard. Now, when we put this over the Coke bottle, you want to make sure that the bottom part is lined up with the opening of the bottle, because when we slide out that piece of paper, all the Mentos are going to fall into the bottle. And you need to make sure you unwrap your Mentos and start putting the candy inside. So I'm going to carefully drop in one at a time. And I'm going to use 13 of these little candies here. And again, you want to make sure that you're holding it really tightly. If you need your parent or guardian to help you, I suggest having them hold the Mentos for you, because it is a little bit tricky to hold on to this together to make sure that they don't fall before you're ready to use them. All right, have one more. All right, now notice that I'm wearing a poncho. That's because I don't want to get messy with this experiment. So if you don't have a poncho or something to cover yourself on because you might get messy with this, then I suggest wearing clothes that you don't mind getting dirty, or clothes that can easily wash. So I'm going to go ahead and take off my headphones, and I'm going to move away from the computer so that I can get started with this experiment. Remember, as you are watching it, you are thinking about, is a physical change happening or a chemical change? So go ahead and enjoy the experiment and follow along, and make sure you're writing down your observations. Put my hood on. Alright, so I'm going to put my Mentos on top of the bottle. All right, and as you can see, we have our experiments. So if you were following along, you can rewind the video and take a look at it again one more time to see what happened, so you can write down your observations about what happened when we put those Mentos into the bottle. Now I'm going to go back inside so I can explain a little bit more whether this was a physical change or a chemical change. So while I'm doing that, go ahead and pause the video and then write down your observations, and then write about it at the bottom, and then take a guess if this was a physical change or a chemical change, and take a guess about how you knew that. Make sure you're using evidence to support your answer, and I will be right back.
Stop it.
All right, now that we're back inside, let's go ahead and review what we just noticed. So, did your prediction match what actually happened? And what did happen? What did you notice when I put those Mentos into the Coke bottle? Make sure you're writing that down. Now, do you think that was a physical change or a chemical change? Well, let's go ahead and read an article to figure out whether a physical change or a chemical change happened when I put those Mentos into the Coke bottle. So Coke and Mentos. Mentos inside a Diet Coke bottle is actually a physical change. So even I was a little bit surprised and shocked when I read that. So when we put that Mentos inside the Coke bottle and it erupted, that was actually a physical change. So let's go ahead and read this quick article. This experiment is an example of a physical change. When you first see a liter of Coke, the liquid is calm. But once you put a few Mentos inside, it gets crazy. Why is this a physical change? When you first look at the Mentos candy, it looks smooth on the surface. But if you were able to take a look at it under a microscope, you would actually see that the entire surface is covered with tiny bumps. These bumps, or rough surface, allow the gas molecules to react with the water in the candy to create carbon dioxide bubbles, which causes the eruption. During this eruption, the Mentos dissolve, which is an example of a physical change. The molecules are so small that we can no longer see them. but the molecules are still the same. The Diet Coke will still be Diet Coke, even though some of it erupted out of the bottle. So let's go back into this middle section here where we're talking about what was happening inside that bottle. So like I said, the Mentos candy, they're little tiny molecules on the surface of it, but they're so small that we cannot actually see it. And those water molecules are reacting to the gas inside the bottle. Now, you know when you shake a soda bottle and there's little bubbles that start fizzing up? That's the carbon or the gas that's inside the bottle. And when we add those water molecules from the candy and it reacts with that gas, it creates carbon dioxide bubbles. And that causes it to burst out and have that eruption. Now, when the Mentos are inside the bottle, they're dissolving. So they're breaking down even smaller. So even though we can't actually see them, they went through a phase change. And remember, we talked about a physical change can also be a phase change when something changes from a liquid to a gas or a solid to a liquid. So our Coke and Mentos experiment today was a physical change. So make sure on your worksheet that you are writing down that a physical change happened because, and make sure you're using some of this vocabulary, such as the water molecules are reacting to the gas molecules to create carbon dioxide. And that's what makes the eruption. So make sure you're challenging yourself to use new vocabulary words in your explanation about what happened in our experiment. Again, feel free to rewind the video so you can rewatch it again, or if you need to take a look at the article to help you use evidence to support your answers, please make sure you're rewinding it and pausing the video. I hope you guys had a really fun time with the experiment today. I know I did. And if you were unable to follow along today, know that you can always buy these materials another day, and you can always do the experiment at home on a different day as well. Hope you guys have a great day.